both of us have asked our therapists these types of questions, and they all have said, answer the questions that he asks you, don't elaborate, and be honest. Just recently, he started asking questions. On one of our trips home from vacation, he's in the back seat and he says, Mommy, I used to kick and hit your tummy when I was inside your tummy. And I said, Oh, honey, you were never in my tummy. And he asked, Whose tummy was I in? And I said, You were in Lily's tummy.
Hello, and welcome back to another amazing episode of the Love and Grace podcast. I'm your host, Grace, and today I'm joined by my co-host, Brian Post, and one of our families in our program. This is their testimony. Brian, how are you doing today?
I'm amazing. Blessed to be here.
Blessed to be here.
Excited to have you two here.
Thank you.
So why don't you?
We're excited to be here.
Awesome. Why don't you introduce yourselves? Tell us where you're from, and how many children you have, how old they are, adopted, biological, all the good stuff.
Okay.
You want me to start?
Sure.
Okay. So I'm Angela Kraft, and I am married to this wonderful man, Mark Kraft. And together we have 6 children. Mark had 3 daughters. I have 2 daughters, and we're blended. And then we adopted our grandson, Ashton, who is now 5.5. So they range from 29 years old to 5.5.
Wow, that's fantastic. 5 girls.
5 girls.
We cover the gamut. Yeah.
Sounds like my
Save it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's cool. Let's talk about the decision to adopt Ashton. How did that come about?
Well, we were on a vacation in Oregon at the time, going up and down the coast of Oregon, which is beautiful, and having a wonderful time. Probably, I would say within the 4th day of enjoying the Oregon coast, we get a phone call from his other grandma suggesting that, or telling us that Lily, my oldest daughter, is not in the greatest shape in the world right now mentally, and that Ashton has been pulled from the house by CPS, and we were taken back for obvious reasons. And excuse me, it's a hard moment, but yeah, I looked. I talked to the grandmother for a little while and got the backstory on what was going on, and it was really hard to consume that information at that time, but after taking it in and really understanding the weight of what we were going through at that moment, Angie and I, after getting off the phone with the grandmother, looked at each other and talked it over, and said first off we'd like to go visit him in Fort Bragg, because that's where they were at the time, and wanted to get a little bit more firsthand accounts of what's actually going on. So we went and visited the CPS office and talked to the social workers in Fort Bragg, and they kind of, were probing and asking us questions. Would you guys be interested in taking him on, as far as like adopting him? And, it was like in that moment, we just both looked at each other and were really thought to ourselves that we cannot say no. I mean, it's my grandson, one, and this little boy has been, put in a very compromising situation, and he needs good people in his life, and yeah, it was kind of a no-brainer that we just take it on
And
and
at
do
that
it.
time, there were no kids at home. Were you empty nesters?
No,
No.
we have kids. Go
We've
ahead.
we've never been empty nesters. It would be nice.
That was the joke of the day. Thank you for that. Thank you. I needed that laugh at that point. So
So
thank
at that time, we had 2 in the home and 2 part-time in the home,
Oh, okay.
you.
and grandma.
Okay.
And so we have a full house
Mhm.
anyway. And then, so that was another obvious consideration.
Mhm.
Were we gonna add another?
Yeah.
And
So
how is that going to affect the other
Yeah.
kid?
And how old
It-
was he?
he was 26 months.
Oh, so baby. So you
Yeah.
toddler. And then how old was the next closest?
Golly.
So the youngest to
14?
him. So yeah, 14 at the
14.
time. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And then the next one?
15,
50.
8,
And then the spread.
18,
It
and,
goes spreads out.
and 21.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 14 and 2.
Yes.
And how many years ago was that?
3.
3 years ago.
Wow.
Hmm.
I guess a big question is adopting grandkids.
Kinship adoption is what that's called.
Right.
Yeah.
What have you guys prepared yourself for questions from him? What does that look like? And if not,
It's a great question.
how can Brian help you prepare?
Another great question. Yeah. So that is a very crossroads of another level of what you have to endure, or it taking on that responsibility comes with that. And yeah, we've come to that point. Actually, that's funny that you mentioned that, because we have come to that point in this moment where we just reached out to the other grandmother, because we had to get him up to par with all of his, behavioral specialists, all the specialists in place. Everything seems to be in place where he is able to function enough at a high enough level where we feel like he is ready to be introduced to that again, and to that whole grandparent, because it was a hard dynamic, because they wanted more, my daughter and her mom, my ex-wife, they wanted more at the time, and we couldn't give it to them, and that was hard for them. So we had to walk the
Meaning
fine.
they wanted more visitation.
Visitation, thank
Okay.
you. And it's like walking a fine line,
Mhm.
but you can't please everybody. And it's a 2-year-old that you are catering to. So it was hugely important to us that they knew that he was the main focal point. He can't make decisions for himself. He is at a very jeopardizing situation. So, yeah, we just wanted to make sure that he was up to par, we felt, to enough to be able to bring them back into his life.
If I may piggyback on that.
Yeah.
So we didn't want to start those conversations and interactions until he was ready.
Mhm.
So we've struggled with that because of the kinship. So it's just a little bit more complicated, because emotions and feelings are so high when it's kinship adoption. And so we were constantly advocating for him, and he was also going through a lot. So we also found out during this time that he's autistic.
Mhm.
He's got intellectual disabilities. His behaviors went just like
Fluctuated so much. Yeah.
it was. So we were trying to figure things out too. So we kind of had to just pause that. Just recently, and why I love that you asked that question, is he started asking questions. And so one of the things that that Mark and I have, we also have independent individual therapy because this has all been hard, right?
Absolutely.
Very
Yeah.
hard. And both of us have asked our therapists these types of questions, and they all have said, be honest.
Mm.
Answer the questions that he asks you, don't elaborate, and be honest. So he recently, on one of our trips home from vacation, he's in the back seat and he says, "Mommy, I used to kick and hit your tummy when I was inside your tummy." And I said, "Oh, honey, you were never in my tummy." And he asked, "Whose tummy was I in?" And I said, "You were in Lily's tummy." So I very, very honestly answered his questions, but I didn't elaborate. And so he kept asking more questions. So, and I just felt really good about how that went. And then he, changed the subject and was talking about a monster truck or something.
Sure.
Yeah. And I was like,
he is that smart. He is that smart. Yeah. He's very inquisitive and
Right.
asks these questions that kind of blow our hair back. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just really,
yeah.
and that's how I know that he's going to go far in this.
He's gonna be okay.
Yeah,
He could change the
Gonna
world
be
for all
okay.
we.
Yeah, right.
But one of the questions that we do want to ask you, Brian, is do we wait for him to bring it up again, or can we, because we're trying to open lines of communication with bio mom and grandma, is ask him, if you want to go visit Lily, let us know, and then like plant the seed and let him decide or bring it up later or what have you. So
There's so many things that you all have said just in this few short minutes. One, I want to commend you both on just having the emotional intelligence and wherewithal and courage to say, hey, visitation's not a good thing for him right now. We need to really focus on him. You saved yourself so much pain and him so much stress. I talk to families all the time who are forced into visitation situations. So I want to commend you on that, making it through that, because I know that's not tough.
Right.
I know that's tough. Second, my mother adopted my 2-year-old nephew, who's also on the spectrum. And so and he's now 27 years old. So I've watched that and been directly a part of that relationship for a long time. Very challenging, more so for her and for my father who's passed away now.
Right.
But definitely.
And they're not young.
No, they're not young. Yeah.
Which makes another dynamic to it.
It is, but he's doing fine.
Great.
He's doing fine. He made it through it. Most law-abiding citizen that exists wouldn't break a rule for nothing. And so to answer your question, you already handled it magically. He asked, you gave him a straightforward, honest answer. He asked some more, and then he didn't need any more because he's processing at his own pace.
yes.
And so when it's time for potentially some kind of reunification, then plant the seed and just ask him. And then you ask him and watch not just watch what he says, listen to what he says, but watch what his behaviors do.
Mm-hmm.
Because being autistic, he may answer you, but emotionally something else is stirred up, and you'll get the behavior from that, and you just gauge it. And then that way you're always able to say, hey, we talked about maybe a visitation, but it's seeming like it could be a little stressful for you. And then you bring that to his awareness, because so much of this is about bringing children into their own consciousness of themselves.
Yeah.
And that's really all healing is to help someone step into a consciousness of who they are, where they've been, what they've gone through, and how it shows up every day, and how you learn to pay attention to it. And then you just grow with it. And over time, you just have more and more awareness of it, therefore more control over it.
Gotcha.
So plant the seed, back up, watch, observe, guide him through the process, and you just never know where it goes. But as long as you're willing to be open
Mhm.
to whatever he comes up with, then it's going to be fine. You know, he's going to have visitation, and the visitation could go great. But after the visitation, he's going to have behavior issues because it's stressful. It's stressful at an in utero level. When he says I was hitting and kicking you when I was in your tummy, he's telling you it was stressful, that it's been stressful a long time. So that's where he'll go back to. He'll go back to 2, or he'll go back to in utero. He'll be a mad little stressed out baby, or he'll be a stressed out little 2-year-old. And then just remember, it takes 36 hours for high levels of cortisol to clear the brain and body system. So it'll take 36 hours, and then he'll start settling down again. And so during that 36 hours, you just do the most nurturing, regulating things you can, encourage him to let it out, let it go. You're supposed to feel this way. It's okay to feel this way. We got you. You're okay. You're safe. If you have any questions, let us know. If you want to be in your room, that's fine. Whatever you need. Do you need a bottle? Can I hold you? You know,
A lot more catering.
all the way back to the baby stuff.
Yeah.
And it's more than just catering. It is honoring where he's at. See, when we say catering, you didn't mean it in any kind of negative way, but when we say catering, our physiology says we're having to attend to someone to just serve them. And in our society, that can really lead to a lot of pent-up frustration and resentment. But when you're just acknowledging and honoring where he's at, that's where he's at. So you're not catering to him, you're just meeting him just like if he was a baby. You don't cater to a baby, you just nurture the baby.
Right.
You just take care of the baby.
Lots of love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lots of love. Well, that's a super cool story. So things are just kicking in for you all. And you've gotten started so early with him in your understanding. I, by far, not only have had the most enjoyment with the parents that I've worked with, but seen the most success for the parents who are just willing to step into their own fear, their own struggles, and just do their work and be open. Just be open to whatever unfolds. They are by and large the most successful families that we work with, and as clinicians, as helpers, it's always so positively reinforcing. We did an interview with Grace's parents recently, and they from my very first day of meeting them, I just loved them because I met her mom first. She was just ready to dig in, and that's such, sadly, it's such a rare quality to find in adults, because self-work is scary work. It's hard work. And we tend to want to focus just on our children and what their issues are and what their needs are and what their traumas are. And we don't realize that we're such a linchpin and such a healing force as parents in their lives, in their day-to-day lives. So it's very cool. Very cool.
Well, when we first found out about you and the Leaf Company, we were so spiraling out of control.
Tell us about that. What did that look and feel like?
Tears every day.
Right.
Just we didn't know how to manage him, how to help him.
What were the behaviors?
Well, the thing is you kind of touched on it, that generational, here's how we were treated by our parents. Here's what we know. For 5 girls, it kind of worked,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I mean, so, hey, don't do that. Hey, this, time out. All of those things. And
Suppress.
Yes.
Yeah.
we didn't know we were doing it wrong for him,
Right.
right? For him, that wasn't going to work.
Mhm.
And so we were just, oh my gosh, so stressed, so overwhelmed. Like I said, tears for us, frustration.
And then for us, it was mounting with us,
Yes.
and it's really hard to differentiate what's going on at times when there's so much chaos, right? And we were wondering, our relationship was taking such a hit because we didn't know how to stay regulated because there was so much chaos, and we didn't know how to hone that, rein that in, and how to figure that out. And we were, grasping at straws, so to speak, at the time, and just trying to, we'd go to bed at night, and we would just, be really, it felt like we were disconnected from each other. And beforehand, we knew how much we loved each other, but the deregulation in the house was, putting a wedge between us, and we didn't know how to get it back. I mean, we were, said everything was fine, and that typical thing where we can get through this, but we didn't know how to get through it, right? We didn't know how to. And then
it was day in
and day out.
and day in.
And it was so wearing and so tiring. I mean, I feel so less tired these days because of you guys. This leaf company, you, and this family, that we become a family. We feel like we're part of this beautiful family of knowing that, it starts, like you were just saying, it starts within you. If you're not right, how can you be right for anybody else?
Sure.
And you brought that to the forefront. And I get the chills. It's been beautiful. Like I was just telling Shauna earlier that that we were in such disarray and confusion and everything else, and then we met you. We came to your seminar, and we left that seminar feeling like we had hope. So thank you.
Yeah.
Because
Pleasure.
it was it was really a tough deal. We felt like we had no more answers, or no answers to begin with. We were trying to figure it out on our own, and gosh, your format and the way it's set up, where you focus on yourself, and that just was the foundation to everything else that has healed us. And it's just a process.
It is a process.
And it, once you learn the patience and know and put faith with it, whatever faith you believe, but you have to have faith too with it. It goes hand in hand. And it is, and when you believe with all your heart in something greater than you, and then to add your system, which is, it stems from faith. It is such a beautiful thing. It heals, beyond words.
But I want to go
you
back to
can't put it
something
in-
that you said. You said, or what I want, my point that I want to make is that we were like below rock bottom, right? It was so bad. And so when we went to the seminar and we're listening, we were so open,
Yeah.
like you were saying.
Mhm.
For the people who have the most success, you just have to take it all in. Because when we first started reading From Fear to Love book, we were like, how is that gonna work?
Yeah.
That can't work.
Yeah, we
Right?
were looking at it like,
Sure.
it might be a little too fairy tale land stuff,
Yeah.
But
Interesting. I love that.
but we were also going
We were
open-minded enough
Yeah.
Yes.
to know that you will try anything.
Absolutely.
We'll do whatever it takes to get to where
Yeah.
we can breathe.
Yes.
Basically.
Yeah.
So
We were willing to, our way wasn't working, and we were willing to listen to every step and tip that you shared to our way isn't working, so let's try it, right? And so then we were trying things, and we're like, oh my God, that worked. How did that work? That is so cool. So then we were just more and more invested in making it work.
Yeah.
And that's
You know,
every
you-
month was better and better.
You know what I really noticed is when it started amping up in the house. It was almost like a light bulb moment of, gosh, beforehand, somebody would say something that would deregulate the whole household, right? Because like you said, it only takes one person, right? And then with practice, you started seeing the regulation between us, and because we are the household, the leaders of the household, and once that started, then you started seeing our other children, because let's just be honest, it was super hard on the other children. Let's don't leave these
Absolutely.
let's don't leave the other kids out, because it
Yes.
took a toll on them, because we were taking all this attention and putting it on this little 5-year, or two at the time. And it was, you can see they were going into their rooms and degressing, and we were starting to it was
Lose 'em.
the division in the house. You saw it, and then with your program, and then we started implementing that, and to see the kids come out of their rooms and want to be with us and talk with us, we're like, this is working. This is a beautiful thing. This is what love looks like.
That's right.
That's what love looks like right here. And this family is coming together finally, and to see it even better than it was before Ashton, and all of the chaos of that. Like, we could have all this working, not just one element here. We could have all this working, and it's starting to,
Yeah.
it's a beautiful thing unfolding right in front of our eyes,
It's
it's
fantastic.
yeah.
One of the things I want to pinpoint, because we have parents in your two-year-old situation, when he was 2, we have them in that same situation right now, listening to you all share your testimony. And they have 5 kids, and they're adults, or teens and adults, and timeout worked with those 5, and yelling worked, and threatening, and raising eyebrows, and snarling, and snapping fingers, and all the stuff we do. It worked, and now they're like, well, why isn't it working with this one? Which is super confusing, because what mainstream says is it's because he's bad. It's because he's traumatized. It's because he's different.
Putting labels.
They put all the labels on
Yeah,
it,
right.
to I always say scapegoat. And it's so interesting, because scapegoating is a very common terminology in psychology and mental health. But at the same time, as soon as we start diagnosing and medicating and labeling someone in a family, we're scapegoating them. We're making them the problem.
Because
so
it's easier.
It's so
right?
it's so much easier to see the threat and identify the threat, because our amygdalas are always looking for it. But the point I want to make in that is why what you did with the other 5 seemed to work versus not working with him. And it is because with the other 5, they had a different ability to regulate stress. It wasn't the thing you were doing. It was that because of what their births were like and what their early experiences were like, their brains could regulate stress more effectively. Timeout is stressful. Spanking is stressful. Yelling is stressful. But when you have a brain that is set up to handle stress a little bit better, which typically happens with biological children, just because they get better stuff and they get consistent stuff all the way through, then parents are able to do those traditional parenting practices, and they seemingly work. Well, it has nothing to do with the practice. It has everything to do with the way the brain can handle stress. And then you take those same practices and you apply them to the stressed out autism spectrum 2-year-old, any 2-year-old for that matter.
Right.
Right.
We use that a lot, by
Yeah.
the way.
And they
He's
don't- it
still
doesn't
5,
work.
right?
That's right. Yeah. And it doesn't work.
Right.
And so then you're like, why? The tool worked for them. It doesn't work for him. It's
Right.
because it's stressing him out more, and his brain can't handle the stress in the same way.
But you want to know what? We've also admitted to ourselves that we caused the other 5 undue harm by the way that we were treating them and raising them. we didn't know better.
Sure.
So we're not beating ourselves up
Yeah.
over it,
Yeah.
but we've apologized. We've apologized to our other kids and said, we knew what we knew at that moment, but I'm really sorry.
Yeah.
And I think it's made a huge impact because they're not perfect and right.
Mhm.
They have trauma because of how they were treated,
Yeah.
So
And it's
this
such
has
an
helped the whole, when he's saying this has helped the whole family
yeah.
get closer. It truly has, even for the older kids.
It's such an honorable thing for you to be willing as adults to go back to your older children and say, hey, we might have screwed up a little bit and we're sorry.
Guilty.
We did the best that we knew to do.
Yeah.
We could have done things differently. Now, can't change the past, but it can change the future. And it can also give the child who received that approach a little bit of relief in knowing they weren't the bad one. Because what kids do is they internalize. So however we treat them, they internalize it as the treatment is deserved because I'm bad. And then I always say when the kids hit adolescence, you can't use those controlling techniques on them because they don't want to be the bad one anymore. They make you bad.
Right.
And then they go out and find some other stressed out kids to hang out with. Turn it over to you, Greg.
Yeah, that's definitely awe-inspiring story. I think it's very special. I think it's an important topic to focus on because, there are those, what was the word again? Interrelational. What was that one? The big word that he used that we're totally going to cut this whole part.
It's okay.
No, but the just the fact that is, a story that a lot of people, have. They have to step up when, step back onto the field after they thought their turn was done, and to support their family and their extended family. And as I commend you guys on that.
Thank you.
And it sounds like you have a lot of faith-based beliefs, and I feel like that is important to have, like a rock, a stronghold to hold on to in stuff like this, where you're like, where is the light at the end of the tunnel? And it sounds like the Leaf Company really provided the aha moment for you guys.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We feel like we can breathe now. I think that's the best analogy. And another point to what Brian said at that seminar, I think it's huge. I think we are too hard on ourselves as parents. And when you told all of us to just pat ourselves on the back every once in a while too, you have to give yourself grace. Because I think you're not going to get it from anybody else sometimes, right? You have to tell yourself that you're doing a great job. And, it's important. So yeah,
No, that's a very important point.
yeah.
So I've done a couple of different lectures to adoptive groups over the last month. And I've started all those lectures by saying, you guys got to celebrate, number one, that you're here, that you're willing to take time and energy and money to come to a conference to learn. Number two, that you are doing okay. And sometimes I'll be like, in the last 30 minutes of this talk, no one's kids have come into the room. You know what that means? That means they're regulating and they're doing okay. Parents get stressed out and they catastrophize and everything feels bad. When in fact, 80% is fine. Sometimes 90% is fine. It's the 10 that stresses us all out and sends us spiraling. So you're absolutely right. You have to commend yourself.
Right.
You're doing an awesome job.
Thank
You're
you.
showing up and you're paying the bills and putting food on the table.
And like my friend said one time, and this is stuck because I love this man. He goes and says, well, Mark, if you had a time machine, you can go back and change it all. That's
Yeah.
You just have to go forward.
That's right.
A shaman told me one time, forward, forward, forward. Those words were so profound.
Yeah.
And it's the simplest words sometimes, that make the biggest impact. So
That's so interesting. And that's also very powerful because people tend to think that going back and reviewing the past working on the past is not going forward or not working in the present. So a lot of times you'll hear, well, I don't want to go back and stir up all that stuff or deal with that stuff. But the reality is that stuff's in the present. So you're actually not going back to the past. You're actually working on something
It's affecting me now.
It's hitting you right now.
Right.
And
Yes.
one of my favorite quotes is from Deepak Chopra, that you cannot prevent the future from occurring, but you can influence the future from the present. But if your present keeps being disrupted by your past, then what's going to show up in your future is going to be stuff from the past. And so there's a reason we're crazy as a society right now, because we're all byproducts of the parenting that we received, which was not terrible. Some of us questionable, but some of us, we got decent stuff mired with some of the trash, but we're now living that as parents and as adults in this world, making rules and regulations that don't make sense. And people wonder why. It's because we're all stressed out. We haven't grown. We didn't get taught any self-awareness. So you have a 5-year-old now who you inherited at 2, who you are teaching self-awareness. What's he going to look like when he's 10 and then 15 and then 20 and then 30 and then 40?
Right.
He's learning a completely different skill set and vibration that he brings into the world. And I feel like that's the most powerful thing we can do with our children. Now, I have a question. You got stressed out parents right now, feeling helpless. They don't know what to do. As 2 parents who are in it, gone through it, moving through it, what can you encourage them to do today in their homes and in their relationships?
Oh, first thing that comes to mind, and this is not because you're sitting here, is pick up the book, Fear to Love.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we had put things in our lives that had put us in a position to grow, but I think we have grown the most over the last year as far as what we needed, the tools that we needed to be the best for our kids, period. Not just with our adopted grandson, but with all of the kids in the household. And if you have any kind of deregulation in your house,
Stress.
stress. I think the number
all have
one
that.
thing is there's got to be a plan, and you have a plan, and you wrote it out in that book. And for us, there's no if you have an open mind, you can really change your family's dynamics, and you have done that. And I think that's a crucial thing to start with that, and and then go from there. So just start with that.
You'll have to help me with this because I'm drawing a blank on the third thing, but stop, breathe.
Oh, BSS. Breathe, slow down, soften.
Yes, that's
Breathe, slow down, soften.
it. Mhm.
Regulate your nervous system.
Yeah. So if one of us in the house is regulated, everyone will regulate. We have done that
Yeah.
over and over and over since learning that, and it works. So therefore, that's what we do. And if you have to go lock yourself in the bathroom for a few minutes
That's right.
to get yourself regulated, do it.
Yeah, because you're battling.
That's my biggest
in that
tip.
moment, you're battling survival.
Yeah.
So you have to do everything that you can do in that moment of survival to get your energy out of survival. And that's okay.
Yes.
That's the best battle that there is, the internal battle.
Right.
Because otherwise we're trying to make someone else stop being in survival.
I think the second thing is folks who are going through, I mean, we still go through it every day, but is don't argue with a 2-year-old, a 4-year-old, a 5-year-old, what have you. Just
So hard not
Just-
to do.
It's
It
so
is.
hard to do,
Yeah.
especially when you're tired, right?
Sometimes we will just stay quiet. And when he's having his moment, we just put our arms out. We don't even say anything.
Mm-hmm.
And he'll come crawl in, and that's all he wanted.
That's it.
That's it. He just wanted love. That's all he wanted.
Yeah.
And that's what we give him. And it's really cute because now he actually walks up to us and says, I want a hug. Okay.
Wow.
And then he crawls in whichever one of us he goes to, crawls in our lap, and we just hug until he's ready, and
Yeah.
he's
It's-
able to ask for it now. Whereas before,
But we've gave
No.
that's another good point is, or a crucial point is that you have allowed them to have the space to do that now. Before it was we were suppressing and trying to do it that way. This gives your children space to come into you're giving the positive energy and the love, and they feel it. And when they feel that, then they can come in. Otherwise, they're wanting to be outside of that circle of your energy. That's an important point because that's when the dynamics change, is when they felt safe.
yes.
When they didn't, you could tell when they felt safe and when they didn't feel safe. And then you're gonna fail at times. You're just human. You're just
100%.
human.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's the 3 steps forward, 2 steps
Yeah,
back.
and
That
you
whole
only,
thing.
You only fail when you quit.
Right.
That's
When
the
you
only time we
quit, thank
actually
you.
fail.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're learning.
Right.
You're
Yeah.
just learning. Something
just
doesn't
learning.
work. You're just learning.
But you're
Something's-
going forward.
You just keep moving.
You're just going forward.
Fantastic.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys. Those were amazing closing statements of encouragement, hope, and resilience, as well as some really awesome nuggets of advice. I really appreciate you guys coming on today and sharing your story. I'm so excited for your guys' future with Leaf and where that takes you. Thank you, Brian, for joining us today for another amazing episode of the Love and Grace podcast.
Can I say one last thing?
Oh, of course.
You're in your flow.
Yeah, go ahead.
The two of you said you found a family,
Mm.
and you truly have, because relationship matters to me. And I will be available to you
Mm.
for the rest of your lives, or the rest of my life. Just a phone call, just a text away. And it's just like Grace's parents. She made a remark that I hadn't been answering their calls. She was just joking. And I said, oh no, I always answer the Lidge's calls.
Yeah.
And so, it doesn't matter what paths that we start to travel. I am always just a phone call away. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart.
Mm.
Thank you. That
And,
means a
and,
lot to
and
us.
on that note, Brian, there are no accidents.
That's right.
That's
Thank
what I
you.
wanted to say on that.
Yes, thank you, Angie
Thank
and
you.
Mark, for joining us. We
My
appreciate it.
pleasure. Our pleasure.
If you guys enjoyed this episode, please come back for more and subscribe to the channel, like and subscribe. And you can find more at the website. Thank you guys and have
You're
a wonderful
welcome.
day. Bye.